She stirred the soup and slowly fell in. She thought her husband had said he was going to work. It was late again, but Rachel Parker walked into that fancy place she don't think he was going to laugh with. Another woman whispered, "My wife. She's most likely making stew at home like a good little housewife." The room spun the lie. It wasn't just the affair. It was the joke, the smug smile, and everyone else they didn't know about her break was who she really was. Since this isn't the story of a wife who can't do anything story about a woman they didn't think much of, and there's no quiet exit for her tonight, comes up with a truth that will break hearts. What would you do if the person you love most put you down in public? Would you just leave in silence or make them wish they had never doubted you? Worth it to stay with us if you don't want to. This was Rachel's last words. What she had heard from her husband still rang in. She thought about one last trip to Raw. If the deal goes through, we'll be good for life. Rachel and I were going to have kids together. Smiled on the phone that we don't have. David laughed and said, "Kids yet? That's our next thing when I get back." That was 2 months ago, 2 months since the call. 2 months ago accident that broke her heart. David's car had gone off the road. Straight into a work truck he went. Died in the crash, and now Rachel sat. She was still in her Chicago apartment as Lisa, her best friend, was as pale as a ghost. Tried to wake her up from her days past. "Rachel, you can't just give up David. Built that company for both of you. Rachel, don't let it die with him." Couldn't hear her in her mind. The whole world had stopped building everything they had hoped for and given up for it all. Went away with a screech of tires, and Elisa sighed and fell against the metal wall. On the couch next to her and said, "Look, you still have a business to run here. People are counting on you, and maybe not." She thought about it as she watched Rachel run to the bathroom once more. Or maybe something else. Rachel came back minutes later, looking paler than before, taking a tissue to wipe her lips. Lisa's eyes got big. "Oh my God, you're Rachel." Blinked. "Are you a mom?" Confused at first, then slowly came to terms with it amidst the confusion of the funeral and the sadness. 3 months earlier, she hadn't seen the signs. That's what the doctor said for sure. The next day, and for the first time in weeks, Rachel could feel something move in her. She chose to keep the reason to live again. The baby is a secret for now because she is late. Adams Materials Inc., his husband's business still running and was being run by David's Rachel, didn't trust her friend Mark Bennett. Wanting recognition or suitors they don't want after her for money or pity, said David had sold the business to a secret partner before he died. In a quiet voice, she pulled the strings behind the times she gave birth to her son Ethan. Rachel shed tears she hadn't let herself. Since David died, she had to shed with him in her arms. She told him, "You're my Mark." Saw her at the hospital and gave a warm smile. Rachel, happy to hear that he got David's. Rachel's eyes got bigger as Ethan's did. Strength, the sadness went away, the grief given, and the company not only made it. It did well with Rachel and Mark's help. Careful direction. Lisa often visited now her relationship with Mark at the same time, even though she turned red like a teenager. Don't get it whenever Rachel made fun of her. "That got me going," Lisa said one afternoon. "Mark is the real deal, holding baby Ethan." "I'm not even sure what we are, though," Rachel laughed. "Just don't let him, though. Get away. Good guys aren't common these days." It seemed like only yesterday that Ethan was at daycare. Rachel was back at work, and things had got used to a new beat. Mark recently asked Rachel to marry him. Happy for her best friend, and then Kyle Thompson came head of buying things for a big building project. Adams Materials is a company in Denver that works with a rush because a package had failed, while another source said they would. Putting off a multi-million-dollar home. Rachel picked up the phone when development. She moved quickly to offer terms herself. In just hours, no one else could match. Kyle was in her office and shook her hand, impressed by how clear she was trust, and he couldn't help but, "You just saved me," she said with cool strength. "Our business," he told her over coffee, and, "well, we do our best." He leaned in and said, "Rachel, we should have a party for dinner. It's just work. Unless you're too busy being the best." Rachel, the worker, wasn't sure if it had been. She hadn't been with anyone in years. But there was something about Kyle's. She felt better and nodded. All right, one. Dinner, but that one dinner was different. Have you ever met someone during a crisis who changed everything? Your way? Do you think Rachel should let love in again? Or is it too quickly put your thoughts in the post, a review, and let us know where you are? Seeing if you could feel Rachel's pain and note on strength, Marber 100 and tell someone who needs it this story. Rachel Adams stood today with a little hope by the office window and watched the In the Rain. The city of Denver melts away. The weather wasn't on their minds, though. They've been after Kyle for a while now. For months, Kyle Thompson had turned into his daily presence, which he called in the name of business, stopped by for meetings that went on into the evenings, and even brought Ethan little gifts. Nothing too much, but always. He was thoughtful, charming, and polite. Paying too much attention, Lisa had raised an array. Are you sure about this guy? It looks nice, but sometimes being too nice is a Rachel had laughed it off as a red flag. Let me enjoy something without I was waiting for it to go off. But tonight, as she looked over the papers for the next meeting, her company and Cole's company merged group for development. Something strange was caught her interest, a formal event, invite a black tie event put on by William Cole. Rachel's name was on the guest list, but her +1 should be on the RSVP, Kyle Thompson. She closed her eyes and he never even brought it up later that night. Rachel said she didn't know as Kyle put on his jacket and sprayed cologne on it and kissed her on the cheek. Long night, just don't stay up for dinner with clients. Rachel smiled and said, of course not. Have fun. But when he left, she smiled. Gone, she picked up the phone and called Lisa and asked, can you keep an eye on Ethan? I need to see something tonight for myself. After 2 hours, Rachel stepped making the Belmont Grand, a fancy hotel, rent a restaurant for the dinner. She wore a sleek black dress with her hair pulled back. Beautifully, her confidence was sewn into every move inside music and laughter. The who's who of the business world in Denver mixed. Under the lights and at that table, Kyle wasn't the only one sitting near the stage. A woman was holding onto his arm. 10 years younger than Rachel, dressed in a red dress that didn't leave much room for the Rachel's thoughts, made her stomach turn. Though when Kyle leaned in, it was a turning point, and told the girl something in a whisper ear. She laughed out loud and freely, Rachel, before she said anything back. She didn't have to hear it, but she didn't. She turned away because tears were coming. She never thought she had been through worse. She wasn't going to fall apart even though she had lost more. Because of another man's lies, but she still had more surprises in store. Slipped toward the exit, she heard her. Hear your name ring out in the hall, ladies and gentlemen. William Cole's voice boomed. I'd like to make a very important message tonight. We honor not only my 45th birthday, but also an important merger between two strong businesses like Cole Development, and I'm proud to work for Adams Materials and say, the person who owns Adams Materials is here with us. Tonight there were gasps in the crowd. Kyle stopped moving, and Rachel stepped forward. The flash of light hit her like thunder. Whispers turned into shouts. The woman everyone thought she was just sad. Wife. Who was the boss? Thank you, Mr. Cole, Rachel said as she handed him over. A smooth satin box that says, before we sign anything, a small gift to say thank you. For William opened the box and reached a big goal and smiled inside a single copy. He said, Melank pen is beautiful, just like you. The papers were in her hand as she shook it. Rachel was brought out and caught Kyle's pale face. He was frozen in place across the room. He saw that the woman on his arm had moved away. There was trouble when the deal was signed. The deal was finalized and Cold Adams stuff was now won. Rachel clicked their heels together like thunder and slowly walked up to Kyle. Don't forget to talk about the dinner, she said. I'm Rachel, she said with ice in her voice. Please save it and drop your key for me. I'll send your things tomorrow when I get off work. He said, wherever you're sleeping now, hissed, you lied to me. You didn't tell me. I didn't owe you anything because you were my boss. That, she said, but you owed me being honest. And respect, or at least act like a man enough for those. She turned to don't talk to Kyle's mom, Margaret Thompson, showed up behind him and hit him across the back of the head and said, you idiot, you dragged some, but she's the real deal. Here's a drink, waitress. Kyle shrunk, like a boy who was caught lying on a test. Outside the city, the light sparkled. through Rachel's tears, but this time those were tears of strength she had shed. Through loss, betrayal, and being alone, she was taller than she had ever been. You ever put your trust in someone who let you down? To have on a mask, do you think? When it comes to love, second chances should come with if conditions or full exposure, drop what you think below, and the number of comments 100 if this chapter really hit home for you, and what country are you watching? From Rachel's life a week after the gala tectonic plates had moved it, thoughts of her reveal could still be heard in the news picked Denver's boardrooms. Bring up the story of the single woman behind 50, everyone at gala is shocked by Mueller's deal. She was called the Steel Widow in the news. Power that couldn't be shaken, but power wasn't. It had never caught what Rachel was after. Peace was what she wanted, so she sat down. On the deck of her condo, with a view of the city while Ethan played and drank tea. With blocks close, her phone went off. Was William Cole Rachel? He said with a smile. 2 new people are interested in working with us. Thanks to the press and the markets, I wanted to say that you dealt with Kyle in a more grace I could have ever hoped for. She, let's just say, softly laughed. You learn how to bleed through experience. Not making a scene. There was a pause in the line. I knew William would add that I had been planning to. How would you feel about something? About co-chairing the growth not only as a partner, but also as a public face. Rachel thought for a moment, that's a big step. It's now your business too. You've already shown you can lead, with guts and heart. That night I saw that Ethan was getting big fast. Yes, her heart was broken, but not too broken to fix. Maybe it was time, but the universe still had more tests for her to do. After 3 nights, she picked up Ethan. From the house of her friend Lisa, she saw a car they knew parked nearby Kyle. He came out without shaving and looked like Rachel. Please give me 5 before you get fat. She let out a breath and nodded 5 times. They sat on his car's hood and I messed up in the quiet until he broke it. I'm sorry, I wasn't ready for I thought I was a woman like you, but I didn't. I see that. Rachel looked at, keep him quiet. I gave you a place to live. Son trusted you, he said with shame in his voice. Eyes, and I'll feel bad about giving it up for the rest of my life, Kyle. Why are you here? Saw what you did and how you dealt with the deal, the blow. You didn't kill me. You could have done that, but you didn't. Of strength, it changes people. It changed. Rachel stood up and said, I don't need closure. Kyle, you do. I've already moved on. He didn't stop her because he knew she was leaving. After 3 months, she was no longer there. Rachel was in front of a brand new, the meeting room is now co-branded under Adams and Cole Global. She had just finished a major speech on moral issues leadership and the round of applause that, what came next almost made her cry. But there was something more personal waiting for her that evening as she walked outside into the William was leaning there in the parking lot. I was wondering if you'd stand up against his car. He said, I'd like to get dinner. Rachel cocked her head nervously. At the business dinner, he laughed no this time. She smiled, finally seeing someone. Didn't hide. The wedding happened a year later. Ethan was small, beautiful, and warm. Held Rachel as he led her down the aisle, William waited for her hand at the altar, but not as a business partner, but as a man who had fallen in love with a woman who herself from ashes. And this time, no one didn't cheat or lie, and no one wore a mask. Rachel had lost everything before, but now she had made something stronger, a family, a heritage, and most of all, herself. Do you believe people like Kyle deserve chances to forgive, or are there some betrayals? What's wrong? Have you ever had to start over with your life and find there's something better on the other side? Post your answers below and leave a note. 100 if this story made you feel something, to find out where in the world you are watching from. Let's see how far this story goes. Trips, and if this story moved you, heart, please share it with someone. You don't know who I might need it today. Would you like me to get it for you? Come up with an interesting 150-word hook to use. At the beginning, for people who watch videos, it had been months since Rachel's night took back her power, not out of anger, but with quiet power after the A fight at the gala. Kyle went away from her life. There were no sincerely sorry, No crying phone call sends only a short text message. A lawyer giving up any claims against the business. They said they were going to build Rachel, and I had both moved on emotionally. What is mentally and professionally? What shocked her the most wasn't that she had, it was how whole they were after being betrayed. She felt and didn't try to fill the empty space. More, but the universe had more, and William didn't rush things for her. He kept showing up alone. Not roses or practice lines, but with offers, Ethan a lunch in the park, asking her to help fix a leaky sink, events in the business world. Not as his friend, but as his equal. They didn't trust each other. It grew from big claims it made in the little things the way he always did. He looked her in the eye. The way he did, Ethan laughed like he's never made her before. Feel like she had to be less to be loved. Rachel stood on the balcony one night seeing the city from her house. William, the skyline was glowing in golden yellow, stood behind her with 2 mugs of tea. Big day tomorrow, he said, new. She smiled and said, you. Are you sure we're ready? He looked at her. Without a doubt, we're more than ready. But what he said next caught her off guard. I need to talk to you about plus something else. She slowly turned around. What is that? He didn't give the right answer. Instead, he took something from his. It wasn't a ring. It was a key to the lake house is for you, he said softly. For Ethan whenever you need to, Rachel said. Just breathe, no strings attached. Her throat got tight and she didn't need it. An offer she didn't need gems for this show of safety and understanding of giving peace without taking anything was the loveliest thing anyone had ever. She took the key that was given to her, and with a teary smile, she said, thank you for taking my time, he told her as he held her hand. Dear Rachel, you were never late. It wasn't a fancy wedding, no news. News stories about real vows and just laughs the family they had picked out for themselves, even as Kyle's mother, who did not agree with Rachel, going to the bringing a simple flower, and tears in her eyes. Everything you did was wrong, Rachel quietly let her go, because this story wasn't about holding a grudge. That night, a story about growth, the event, while the guests danced and both Ethan and the other one chased fireflies. William went over to Rachel and, you told me once that your story was over. When James died, she added as she thought about it. Those broken parts of herself, but it didn't finish, William went on. It just, and maybe that was the most honest thing anyone had ever said. Rachel's life had times of pain and grief. To get back at them, it wasn't even about romance. It was about getting back home to herself, about seeing that her worth was never tied to anything to those who loved her, or who left her, letting her son know what love is. It looked like respect, kindness, honesty, and as she watched William pick up Ethan across his shoulders and over the lawn like a silly kid, Rachel knew. Not only did she live, she grew. What part of Rachel's story moved you the most? Have you ever come out of grief makes you stronger, smarter, and more? You can leave comment number 100 if this. Your heart was touched by this story, tell it. Tell us where you're watching from. If this video touched you, please share it. Someone else might be going through their own quiet fight, and this could be the tell us where you're watching from. If this video touched you, please share it. Someone else might be going through their own quiet fight, and this could be the I hope they get what they need, and don't forget to leave a review, and subscribe for more power. True stories of bravery, healing, and thanks for staying and giving us a second chance with us until the end. We hope it brought to your attention a powerful truth. The story isn't over yet, not by a long shot.